Dinarland from Dinar Updates Chat Room, and a bit from Frank26. First up from Dinar Updates Chat Room. News excerpts and highlights. Dinar says, Egyptian-Iraqi meeting looming for developing economy. The Iraqi foreign minister, Ibrahim Jafari, said Wednesday, his counterpart, sidelined Shawkri ancient civilizations in the Greek capital of Athens, and agreed to a meeting near a joint Iraqi-Egyptian development of economic and trade cooperation between the two countries. Jafari's office said in a statement, The Economy News received a copy of it, discussed bilateral relations between Baghdad and Cairo, mechanisms promoting mutual cooperation and international efforts to establish security and stability in the region and eliminate terrorism. The two sides emphasized the need to facilitate the granting of visas to Iraqis wishing to visit Egypt, discussing a mechanism to facilitate this soon. According to the statement, the two sides agreed on the importance of the Joint Higher Committee meeting Iraq-Egypt soon to develop economic cooperation and trade, supporting Egyptian companies to invest in Iraq, and agreed to continue consultation and coordination between the two countries during the next stage. And in al-Jafari, according to the statement, a call for a formal invitation, thanks counterpart to visit Baghdad, where the latter promised to meet them soon. Dinar says, Parliamentary economy, Iraq looks to diversify the sources of financing of the state treasury. Member of the Parliamentary Committee on the Economy and Investment Javad al-Bulani, Wednesday, the telecommunications sector is the second source of state coffers after oil. As indicated, Iraq need to invest and share experiences with the outside world. In a statement sent to al-Bulani said, The Economy News, that, a rational requirement in an important economic investment, Iraq needs to invest and share experiences with the outside world, especially the world is now turning to different interests system. He said that the investment doesn't mean compromising sovereignty or national security, information security, and the Ministry of Communications is responsible for the technical side as well as the responsibility of other state institutions. Al-Bulani said, Iraq looks to develop investment in telecommunications sector which generates huge revenues for the country, the second after oil source for the public treasury. And Wednesday morning, the Arab Investment in Information and Communication Technology, map of the organization's investments in Arabic, in the presence of political figures, the number of accredited ambassadors. From Bobby Jeffusah says, Baghdad, journal news sources close to the Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi said that, the next Saturday, April 30, 2017, will be the beginning of the return of the city of Mosul and the liberation of Iraq completely from the organization calling the terrorist. Dr. Dave says, Savannah says, lost connection and was carrying on a conversation by myself. LOL. Jeffusah says, the sources pointed out to the journal news that the Iraqi flag will be raised and the last bullet fired by Abadi, noting that the areas that are under the control of a few and very near the corner of liberation. Jeffusah says to Savannah, was it a good chat? Savannah says to Jeffusah, always. Dinar says, awesome. Thanks. Jeff Clay says, the crowd proceeded to storm the urban center. Spend history of edits, 61 times readable. The crowd proceeded to storm the urban center. Spend where Baghdad stormed the popular crowd forces on Wednesday, the urban center south of Mosul eliminate all axes, while locked in fierce battles on his limbs. According to Media Crowd in a statement received by all of Iraq, where a copy of it today, that the popular crowd began to storm the urban spend, to liberation from Daesh criminal. Liberated the popular crowd forces on Wednesday, the urban ancient city entirely Daesh. The operations of Mohammed the Messenger of Allah launched yesterday, Tuesday, to liberate the urban spend, where he ended the first day of operations by editing the 11 villages and killed 40-at, and damaged many of the wheels. Daesh criminal. Print page PDF sent to friends. P. Mosley Clay says, Iraqi forces evacuated on Wednesday, some 3,500 civilians, mostly women and children from villages in southern Mosul, the second day of the military operation aimed at freeing Han Urban from the grip of the Daesh terrorist. He said Iraqi Army Captain Jabbar Hassan, in a press statement, said that armored forces of the army and factions of the popular crowd today evacuated some 3,500 civilians from the surrounding district of urban villages, amid continuing fierce fighting against the Taliban organization. Hassan explained that a number of civilians had been caused by incessant shelling and clashes injuries, pointing out that hundreds of civilians were forced to travel long distances on foot until they reach safe areas under the control of the popular crowd. Clay says, Hassan explained that a number of civilians had been caused by incessant shelling and clashes injuries, pointing out that hundreds of civilians were forced to travel long distances on foot until they reach safe areas under the control of the popular crowd. For his part, revealed Zayjulai Shirtsad, a captain in the Peshmerga forces, for the arrival of more than 1,200 displaced people to the axis of Kazakh north of Mosul, after fleeing from their homes and tracking the district of Talafar is still subject to Dace villages. Clay says, Talafar for his part, revealed Zayjulai Shirtsad, a captain in the Peshmerga forces, for the arrival of more than 1,200 displaced people to the axis of Kazakh north of Mosul, after fleeing from their homes and tracking the district of Talafar is still subject to Dace villages. Arizam Tunman says, BTW, was reading MSN.com. They had an article, and several videos explaining Trump's tax plan, and the last thing mentioned in one video was that the capital gains tax returns to 20% from 35%. Just thought I would pass it along in case you had not heard. Of course, this is not the final form, but I do not see an uproar over his plan. Thanks for all you do, and have a great day. Clay says, so Talafar they are not worried about. Clay says, it's surrounded and people are fleeing. Clay says, nothing like Mosul. Clay says, they can overtake it very quickly. Clay says, once Mosul falls Talafar will as well. Willie 60 says to Clay, great news there Clay. Thank you. Oki Dinar says, mobilization forces take over 3 more villages in western Mosul. Al-Shabi, popular mobilization units, in western Mosul. Mosul, IraqiNews.com. Pro-Iraqi government paramilitary forces said Wednesday they recaptured 3 more villages in the western flank of Mosul as part of an operation that launched Tuesday to retake a strategic area from Islamic State militants. The media service Daf al-Shabi, popular mobilization units, said troops recaptured the villages of Imkrais, Ghanem al-Awad, and Haraj in al-Hadar, a region which Iraqi government forces and PMUs launched synchronized offensives Tuesday that resulted in retaking nearly 12 villages. Al-Hashd media said earlier on Wednesday mobilization forces reached al-Hadar's archaeological area. Oki Dinar says, Iraqi government troops, backed by a U.S.-led international military coalition, recaptured eastern Mosul in January, and launched another campaign in February to retake the western region. Iraqi commanders recently claimed the recapture of 70% of the western region, saying IS was only controlling less than 7% of Iraqi territory. Coalition commanders estimate the number of remaining IS members in Mosul by less than 1,000. The most important battles government troops are currently concentrated around western Mosul's ancient Old City, the area which homes the Grand Nuri Mosque where the Islamic State's supreme leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, declared the inception of an Islamic Caliphate on large parts of Iraq and Syria. Oki Dinar says, from Larry Alilali 50 says, I get so confused by the updates on the liberation. The messages are completely mixed. In the past 2 months, we have seen tons of different timelines that all contradict themselves. Makes ya wonder. Ililali 50 says, about a month ago there was an article saying there was only 3 villages left, for example. Now they're saying Iraq recently captured 3 more villages. Doesn't make any sense. Ililali 50 says, come on Iraq. Ililali 50 says, 6 years of waiting is long enough. I know some of you have been in longer. Ililali 50 says, ghost that link isn't going to work. You can only go to that link if you are already a member of the Facebook group. You have to be exclusively invited by a member of the group to get in. Babe says, it is very confusing. 7 years here. Lovely says, I have a question. I read the Firefly said the RV will not happen for years. Any truth to that statement? Magnet Lady says, lovely, everyone has an opinion, but from what I have read and seen and hear lately, that just, in my opinion, is not likely. But what do I know? I think things sound very promising and choose to be positive. Lovely says, thanks so much. Baxter1243 says, just stay away from all those crazy sites. BGG and his great news crew are the only ones to dial in. Stay here and stay informed. Why? Dinar Dave says to Baxter1243, don't tell her that Firefly Somedays is a part of this site. LOL. Magnet Lady says, true. Dinar Dave. Dinar Dave says, but loves to spread his BS. Illily50 says, did Firely give a reason for his/her statement? To anyone's knowledge. Illily50 says, I thought Firefly was one of ours. Magnet Lady says, haven't been here today, was working. Magnet Lady says, Firefly does dome in from time to time, but does get a bit negative from time to time. Think it's time to move on from this idea. Baxter1243 says, amen. The news has been outstanding, just sit back and relax. Now last up a bit from Frank26. I believe it was on the 10th or 11th of this month, we said in my opinion in this month of April, around the third week of April, they are going to start to pay the citizens of Iraq at a new rate of 1,000 to 1. Last Monday, what did the articles say? Well, there is a change. We are trying to see if we can get to a 1,000 to 1 rate, to be used within the citizens. One of my friends has over 500 employees, was instructed by the government of Iraq to start paying all of his 500 employees at a 1,000 to 1 rate, and the citizens realize, wait a minute, we are being given power of purchase. I got a whole lot more dinars here and a whole lot less USD. Why? Because that is the progress of the monetary reform. The IMF and the World Bank meetings in Washington, D.C., were for the development of the foreign reserves of Iraq, and that is more important than anything you can imagine, because it will complete the budget. It is, in my opinion, the very last part of the budget to build the foundation of the foreign reserves of the 2017 budget, and it was a commitment by many contractors, or should I say, many countries that have contracts with Iraq. Stability in the market for these foreign reserves. These currencies are volatile and they were looking for a place to settle, and hence, in my opinion, that is why we haven't seen the budget, but I believe it is ready, it is fueled, it is on the launching pad. The financial reform, in my opinion, is the most important part of the budget. There will be no faking when the announcement is made about Mosul, and this is a very big step. Right now they are following all of the steps to the monetary reform, and many things are falling into place. The timing to me is impeccable, but be fair, their timing is movable. Be patient. You looking for a date? Be patient. You don't